A África faz parte do Brasil. E o Brasil tem que ter orgulho de dizer que faz parte da África. Este é o orgulho.
Brothers and sisters, let me ask you this. What happens when a small nation in the heart of Africa decides to do the unthinkable? What happens when Burkina Faso and they once dismissed as poor, dependent, forgotten joins hands with Brazil, one of the largest agricultural powers in the world, to strike a deal worth $1.5 billion? What happens when the chains of dependency are broken not by force, not by charity, but by bold leadership and strategic partnership? This is coming from your #1 trusted source for African news that the West don't want you to hear. This is Talk of Africa 3.6, so listen carefully, because what I am about to share is not just a contract signed on paper, it is a declaration of independence. It is a fire lit in the fields of Africa that no storm can extinguish. This deal is more than numbers. It is about dignity. It is about an African farmer who will no longer be told by Washington what price his grain must fetch. It is about a village that will no longer wait on ships from Europe to decide whether their children eat. It is about Africa finally saying to the world, we are not your market. We are your competitors. For decades, the United States and its allies dominated global agriculture. They fed us their wheat, their maize, their soybeans, while keeping us dependent on their supply chains. They made billions while our farmers worked with empty hands and empty stomachs. But today is different. Burkina Faso has dared to stand tall, and Brazil has dared to extend its hand, not in dominance but in partnership. And that partnership is shaking the very foundations of U.S. farming power. Make no mistake, the world is watching. Washington is trembling. The American farmer in Iowa, the agribusiness giant in Illinois, the policymakers. In the White House, they see what is happening. And they know, if Africa rises in agriculture, their monopoly collapses, their grip slips, their era ends. So, stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you will see why this deal is not just about Burkina Faso or Brazil. It is about the future of Africa. It is about a seed planted today that will grow into a forest tomorrow. It is about a shift in the balance of power so profound that it will echo for generations. This is not just trade, this is revolution. And you, the people of Africa, are standing at the very heart of it. The date is today, and history has just been rewritten in letters of fire across the sky of Africa. Brothers and sisters, sons and daughters of the soil, listen carefully. For too long, our continent has been spoken of as if we were merely a consumer, never a competitor. A dependent, never a producer. They said Africa was fertile yet unproductive, abundant yet unable to feed itself. But today, that myth has been shattered. Today, the world's tables have turned. For Burkina Faso, the beating heart of Pan-African defiance, has sealed a monumental $1.5 billion agricultural deal with Brazil. And this agreement has sent shockwaves across Washington, shaking the very foundation of U.S. agricultural dominance. Do you understand the magnitude of this moment? For decades, American farmers have been told, and they have believed, that Africa will forever be their market, their dumping ground for surplus wheat, maize, rice, and genetically modified soybeans. They thought Africa's soil was cursed, that Africa's farmers were doomed to fail unless they depended on U.S. technology, U.S. seeds, and U.S. subsidies. But Burkina Faso has just changed that script by joining hands with Brazil, one of the agricultural giants of the world. Burkina Faso has not only rejected dependency but has positioned Africa as a rival, as a partner, and as a rising agricultural force that will feed not just its own people but perhaps even the world. This deal is not about figures on paper. It is not just about $1.5 billion. It is about dignity. It is about sovereignty. It is about Africa finally saying to the West, we shall no longer beg for food when our soil can provide more than enough. We shall no longer import what we can grow. We shall no longer allow our people to starve while foreign farmers profit from our hunger. Let us reflect. The United States has always used agriculture as a weapon of power. They flood our markets with subsidized wheat that undercuts African farmers. They ship rice at prices so low that local producers cannot compete, forcing them into ruin. They use food aid not as charity, but as control, ensuring African governments remain indebted to their kindness while American corporations enrich themselves. But now, with one stroke of the pen, Burkina Faso and Brazil have broken that cycle. Do you know why this is a nightmare for U.S. farmers? Because Brazil is no ordinary partner. Brazil understands the soil, the sun, and the struggle. Brazil, once written off as a nation of poverty, became one of the world's largest exporters of soybeans, coffee, sugar, and beef. Brazil has defied the odds and built an agricultural empire that rivals the United States itself. And now Brazil has looked to Africa not as a colony, not as a charity case, but as a partner. Together with Burkina Faso, they will share knowledge, technology, machinery, and seeds, not the genetically modified poisons of Monsanto, but sustainable methods rooted in cooperation and mutual respect. This deal signals something deeper than trade. It signals the rise of a South-South alliance. For centuries, the narrative of global development has been dominated by the North, the United States, and Europe dictating to Africa, Latin America, and Asia. But today, the South has spoken to the South. Brazil and Burkina Faso have looked each other in the eye and said, "We are no longer students of the West. We are teachers, builders, and partners with each other." And what will this mean for Africa? It means millions of hectares of farmland in Burkina Faso will no longer lie idle, waiting for foreign aid. It means jobs for our youth, dignity for our farmers, and food security for our people. It means Africa will stop importing billions of dollars worth of cereals from the United States every year, a trade that enriches American farmers while impoverishing ours. It means when the rains fall and the soil yields, the harvest will feed African mouths first, not American markets. Do not underestimate the ripple effects of this agreement. Across the African continent, nations are watching. Niger is watching. Mali is watching. Ghana, Senegal, Tanzania, and Kenya are watching. They are seeing a model, a path, a door opened by Burkina Faso that proves Africa can break free from food dependency. And you know who else is watching? Washington. The United States Department of Agriculture is panicking. American farmers are trembling because the very market they relied on to dump their surpluses, the African market of 1.4 billion people, is slipping from their grasp. This is more than an economic setback for U.S. farmers. It is a political defeat for U.S. hegemony. Because for America, food is not just business. Food is leverage. Food is a chain around the necks of weaker nations. But if Africa can feed itself, if Africa can even export food to the world, then that chain is broken forever. Washington will no longer be able to twist arms with bags of wheat. The International Monetary Fund will no longer dictate terms based on promises of food imports. The World Bank will no longer dangle loans as if they were lifelines. Africa will stand on her own feet, not begging for bread, but offering bread to the world. This is why I tell you today, my brothers and sisters, that the Burkina Faso-Brazil deal is not merely a contract. It is a revolution written not with guns, but with seeds, a revolution fought not on battlefields, but in fields of maize and soy. A revolution not declared with bullets, but with tractors, irrigation pumps, and the calloused hands of farmers who refuse to be slaves to foreign powers any longer. And let us not forget, this revolution comes with risk. Washington will not sit quietly. They will not watch as their monopoly crumbles. They will unleash propaganda. They will whisper about food safety concerns. They will accuse Burkina Faso of corruption. They will attempt sanctions. They may even try to sabotage harvests through covert means. Because for them, Africa feeding itself is the greatest threat of all. But let me declare, loud and clear, their era of manipulation is over. Their reign of dependency is broken. The soil of Africa belongs to Africans, and the harvest of Africa shall nourish Africans first. The deal with Brazil is only the beginning. Today it is $1.5 billion. Tomorrow it could be $10 billion. Today it is Burkina Faso. Tomorrow it could be all of Africa. Let us travel deeper into the meaning of this event. Some will look at this deal and see only numbers: 1.5 billion exchanged, contracts signed, hectares allocated. But to reduce it to figures is to miss the thunder echoing across continents. For this is not just an agreement between Ouagadougou and this is a spark that could ignite a firestorm across Africa, one that will change forever the way we understand food, sovereignty, and power. Consider the symbolism. Burkina Faso, a landlocked West African nation often underestimated by Western analysts, stepping boldly into the global stage. For decades, the narrative has been that small nations must wait for aid, wait for investment, wait for Western approval. But Captain Ibrahim and the people have refused to wait. Instead, they have rewritten the script. They have declared, we may be small in geography, but we are vast in vision. We may be landlocked, but we are not future-locked. And with the right partners, we will build an agricultural miracle. Now look to Brazil. Why Brazil? Because Brazil is living proof that colonial chains can be broken. Brazil was once mocked by Western economists as a country of the future that would never arrive. Yet through determination, investment in its farmers, and mastery of its land, Brazil became one of the breadbaskets of the world. Brazil took barren land and turned it into oceans of soybeans. Brazil took challenges and transformed them into triumphs. And now Brazil extends its hand across the Atlantic, saying to Burkina Faso, what we achieved, you too can achieve. This is a brotherhood forged not in exploitation, but in shared struggle. Brazil knows the pain of being exploited. Brazil knows what it means to be used as a source of raw goods while others reap the profit. And so, unlike Western powers who demand dependency, Brazil offers partnership. Unlike Washington, which seeks control, Brazil offers knowledge. Unlike Europe, which imposes conditions, Brazil offers respect. But let us not be naive. Let us ask, why does this terrify U.S. farmers? Why does this make Washington tremble? The answer is simple. The United States has long depended on Africa's dependence. America has built its agricultural empire not only on its own soil but on markets it could manipulate abroad. By flooding African nations with subsidized wheat, maize, and rice, they created a cycle. African farmers abandoned their fields because they could not compete, while African governments became reliant on imports. Who won? The American farmer, who had a guaranteed market, who lost. The African farmer, the African nation, the African child. Now, Burkina Faso threatens to dismantle that structure. With Brazilian partnership, the farmer will rise again. Fields will be cultivated not for subsistence but for abundance. Crops will not only feed families but fill warehouses. Warehouses will not only supply local markets but export to neighbors. And when that happens, Africa will no longer be the market America can exploit. Africa will be the competitor America must fear. Let me paint you the picture. Imagine the great farmlands of Burkina Faso, stretching like green carpets under the African sun. Imagine irrigation systems powered by solar energy, tractors built through cooperation with Brazil, seeds adapted not for dependency but for resilience. Imagine young men and women who once fled to foreign lands in search of opportunity, now returning to their villages because opportunity has returned to them. Imagine markets where African grain is sold to African buyers, not as an afterthought, but as the primary choice. Imagine ships leaving West African ports, carrying not cocoa or gold alone, but maize, rice, and soybeans grown in African soil by African hands. Can you see why Washington trembles? Because every ton of grain produced in Burkina Faso is a ton less imported from America. Every bag of rice harvested in Africa is a bag and sold from American farms. And when the largest agricultural market of the 21st century Africa with its 1.4 billion people turns inward to feed itself, U.S. farmers face collapse. But this is bigger than economics. This is about power. For the United States, agriculture has always been more than food. It has been a weapon through the so-called food for peace program. America sent shipments of grain to poor countries, but in reality, it was not peace they were sending, it was chains. Chains of dependency. For when a nation relies on another for its daily bread, it cannot stand tall. It cannot speak freely. It cannot resist. But when that same nation controls its food supply, it controls its destiny. This is what Burkina Faso has just declared to the world. We control our destiny. Do you hear the echoes across the continent? In Mali, farmers are watching. In Niger, herders are listening. In Ghana, in Kenya, in Ethiopia, young people are whispering, if Burkina can, why not us? That is the true power of this moment. It is contagious. It is infectious. It is revolutionary. And so the United States is caught in a dilemma. If they attack the deal, they appear as bullies, terrified of African progress. If they ignore it, they risk allowing the spark to spread. They will try, no doubt, to undermine it quietly through pressure, through propaganda, through the ever-present tools of destabilization. But hear me well, the people are awake. The continent is awake. The farmers are awake. And once the soil awakens, no foreign power can put it back to sleep. Yet, brothers and sisters, let us not celebrate prematurely, for challenges remain. The road ahead will not be easy. American corporations will not simply pack their bags. They will fight tooth and nail to preserve their grip on African markets. They will offer better deals, bribes disguised as aid. They will deploy their media to paint Burkina Faso as reckless. They will whisper into the ears of neighboring leaders, do not follow Ouagadougou. It is a dangerous path. They will send economists with charts and graphs, claiming that Africa cannot survive without American grain. But truth does not bend to propaganda. Truth is planted in the soil and harvested in the sun. And the truth is this: Africa can feed itself. Africa has always been able to feed itself. It was colonialism and later neocolonialism that created the myth of African dependency. And now that myth is dying, buried under fields of maize. In Burkina Faso, this is why today, as we stand at the dawn of a new agricultural revolution, we must be vigilant. We must guard this partnership with Brazil not only with contracts but with courage. We must protect our farmers not only with tools but with policies. We must support this deal not only with celebration but with solidarity across the continent. For this is not the victory of one nation, it is the beginning of a continental awakening. The eyes of Africa are fixed on Burkina Faso, and the eyes of the world are fixed on Africa. The question they ask is simple: will Africa rise? And the answer, my brothers and sisters, is clearer than ever. Yes, Africa will rise through the soil, through the seed, through the sweat of her people, and through the courage of her leaders. Brothers and sisters of Africa, let us extend the horizon even further. For what we are discussing today is not only about Burkina Faso and Brazil, it is about the chain reaction that this deal will ignite across the African continent and beyond. When one domino falls, others follow, and what began in Ouagadougou will not end there. It will ripple across nations, across regions, across oceans. Think of the Sahel. Burkina Faso has dared to plant a seed of sovereignty. Mali and Niger, already marching alongside in solidarity against neo-colonialism, will not remain bystanders. They will look to Brazil, to Argentina, to India, to China, to any nation that is willing to deal with Africa as an equal. Together, they will forge an agricultural bloc capable of feeding not just the Sahel, but all of West Africa. Then think of West Africa as a whole. Ghana with its fertile soils, Nigeria with its vast population, Côte d'Ivoire with its strength in cocoa. Imagine if these nations coordinated with Burkina Faso, trading not only goods, but technology and expertise. Suddenly, ECOWAS, once weakened by foreign manipulation, becomes an agricultural powerhouse, producing food not just for itself but for global markets. Do you see the picture forming? An Africa that no longer begs for food aid. An Africa that no longer relies on imports. An Africa that instead exports grain, rice, soybeans, fruits, and vegetables to Europe, to Asia, to the Middle East. And when that day comes, the balance of global trade shifts forever. But let us take this vision further, because agriculture is not only about food, it is about industry. When you grow maize, you do not only produce flour, you produce starch, ethanol, animal feed, cooking oil. When you grow soybeans, you do not only feed people, you create soy oil, soy milk, livestock feed, even biofuels. And when Africa produces these at scale, it is not just farming, it is industrial transformation. It is jobs for the youth. It is factories in Ouagadougou, in Bamako, in Niamey. It is new cities built not on imported loans, but on exported produce. And what does this mean for the West? It means their stranglehold weakens. It means the farmer in Iowa, the exporter in Kansas, the grain corporation in Illinois all must now compete with Africa. For the first time in history, they will look across the Atlantic not at markets to exploit, but at rivals to respect. This is the tremor shaking Washington. This is why they panic. For decades, they told us Africa could not rise. But Africa is rising. For decades, they said African soil was cursed, but African soil is fertile. For decades, they said Africa must always depend. But today, Africa is declaring, we depend on no one but ourselves and our true partners. Brothers and sisters, this is bigger than trade. This is about dignity. The dignity of a farmer who no longer sells his labor cheaply to foreign corporations but earns a living wage from his land. The dignity of a mother who no longer wonders if foreign imports will arrive to feed her children because the food is grown in her own village. The dignity of a nation that no longer begs but bargains as an equal. This is what Captain Ibrahim has set in motion. This is what Burkina Faso and Brazil have signed into history. A contract of courage, not only of commerce. And so I say to Africa, the time has come to unite behind this vision. The time has come to protect this deal, not as alone, but as Africans. For make no mistake, the enemies of progress will come. They will attempt sabotage. They will attempt destabilization. They will whisper lies in our ears. They will try to sow division. But we must respond as one people, with one voice, declaring, we will not turn back. We will not surrender. We will not trade our dignity for dependence. Look around the world, my brothers and sisters. The future belongs not to those who cling to the past, but to those who dare to plant new seeds. Africa is planting those seeds today. Burkina Faso is the first field. Tomorrow, Mali will be the second, Niger the third, Ghana the fourth, and soon the entire continent will be one vast garden of prosperity. And to our friends in Brazil, let us say this. You have extended a hand across the Atlantic, and we have grasped it firmly. This is not charity. This is not domination. This is brotherhood. This is partnership. This is the global South rising together, shoulder to shoulder, declaring to the world, we are not your backyard. We are not your afterthought. We are your equals. And to the United States, let us be clear. This is not hatred. This is not revenge. This is justice. This is balance. This is the inevitable correction of history. If you wish to compete, then compete fairly. If you wish to trade, then trade respectfully. But if you wish to impose, to control, to sabotage, know that the time of African silence is over. Today, August 16, 2025, will be remembered not only as the day Burkina Faso signed a deal with Brazil. It will be remembered as the day Africa drew a line in the sand and said, our soil is ours, Our food is ours. Our destiny is ours. And so, as I close, I call upon every African leader, every African farmer, every African youth rise to this moment. Protect it. Multiply it. Let the seeds planted today grow into forests tomorrow. Let the rivers of prosperity flow across every border. Let the dream of a self-sufficient Africa become the reality of our generation. For the chains are breaking, the fields are awakening, the people are rising, and the future is ours.